Hey, good evening, everybody. So glad you could join us tonight. Thank y'all for your support, your love, your loyalty, your dedication. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Listen, uh, please like, please share. We are getting more and more viewers, but we are getting more and more followers. Uh, Sonar and I have no purpose to monetize this thing. That's not why we're doing it, but it does definitely help people find us when you like and you share, and it adds to um, the numbers that Google measures and YouTube measures and Facebook measures. So please don't forget that. Where is my cohort in crime? There she is.
I'm sitting here thinking, I'm looking down my checklist of things I wanted to say, and you just said all of them. You said all of them. I got them
What?
written all down. I wanted to be sure and thank the people also that reach out to us privately and tell us, what they've gotten from it and that they appreciate the teaching and stuff. And that really does help us because we're not sure because we're human and we get discouraged a little sometimes, don't feel like we've done a good job. But I do want to talk about one thing, and that is it is not our job to measure success. That it is God that brings the increase. We don't care about numbers. We don't care about being monetized, anything like that. We're just trying to get the word out. That's
Yeah,
it.
we're
And we're
just trying to.
hoping that one day when we're gone and our great great grandchildren say, "Y'all remember that thing they used to have called YouTube?" I think my grandparents used to be on, great great grandparents used to be on there. Maybe they'll pull this thing up and watch it on some old device that they got from the Goodwill store or something.
Yeah,
I don't know,
had to pull
but
it out of pull
yeah,
it out of Goodwill or something.
yeah, yeah.
The junk pile.
Yeah,
But
but
no,
Keith, you and I talk about all the time that seeds get planted, and when people
hmm
share this with somebody, you think, well, they never looked at it, or they didn't do this, or they didn't respond the way that you thought. You know, don't worry about that.
yeah,
There was a time when I was on the phone with my son who lives, halfway across the country, and he said, hey, I just drove by, the mall, and there are people out here giving away Bibles. Now, he never stopped. He never spoke to them. He never said, hey, I'm going to call my mom and tell her about y'all. But that sparked something in us and a seed. And for years, we've had something called Gaza Road Ministries where we give out Bibles on the side of the road. And those people never knew that there was an increase from their willingness to put themselves out there. So I just want to say that
their obedience. That's exactly right.
mhm,
That's
that's
exactly
right.
right.
That's right.
And what Sonar is talking about is we do have commenters, and thank y'all for the live participation. We do appreciate that, but it seems like we find out we've got comments that come in after the fact. We got comments that come in during the following week, and so we really appreciate that. So thank y'all, and please share because it's not for us. We're trying to get the word out. So,
Landon
so
said, "Gotta love an antique." She's talking about my Goodwill.
yeah, yeah. Well,
So,
kick it off,
yeah.
sweetie.
Okay, we can kick this off. Let's see. We've got a lot going on down here. Let's add some things to the stage. We titled this "Unraveling the Mysteries." This is our 79th podcast. We're excited to still be around and appreciate everybody that watches. Like we said, um, last week we kind of stopped talking about we talked a lot about Jesus and what it takes to become a rabbi, and I want to just go back over that a parable is a simple story that Jesus told to reveal invisible truths about God's kingdom, clear to the seeking, hidden from the indifferent.
Yes.
um, and one of the things that we got from this, we want to just remind everybody that Jesus used parables not just to teach but to sift.
hmm
They illuminate the truth to the humble and the hungry while remaining hidden to the proud and the indifferent.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time last week uh, laying the foundation for why Jesus taught in parables. Uh, Jesus was rejected in chapter 12 so seriously that he never taught publicly.
We're going to get to that, Keith. We sure
Okay.
are. We're going to get to
Okay.
that.
Sorry.
That's a good point. But these are some of the parables of Jesus, or the parables of Jesus, and where they're found in the scripture. If anybody wants to go and study them, we're not going to study all of those today. We'll probably continue to do a few next week, but we just mainly want to get a couple of these in here and discover what we can from them. The parable of the sower, the first one, we're in Matthew chapter 13, where Jesus describes 4 types of soil where seed falls. Let me just go ahead and read this. It says, that same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it while all the people stood on the shore. Can you imagine that, Keith? There were so many people waiting to hear him speak that he had to kind of get away from them and get in the boat.
In order to be able to project to them,
Mm-hmm.
on a slope to make it easier for him to be heard. Yeah.
And you can imagine that they probably really crowded around trying to hear. There was no microphone. So, he probably had better amplification that way anyway. But then he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out, and as he was scattering the seeds, some fell along the path, and the birds came up and ate it. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil, but sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among the thorns, which grew up. Still other seed fell on good soil where it produced a crop 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. Now, the disciples came to him and asked him, why do you speak to the people in parables? They probably were also thinking, if we can't understand them, the people can't understand them.
Well, and two, you got to remember that Sermon on the Mount discourse that was in Matthew 5, 6, and 7. My gosh, that was such a detailed, structured teaching. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he doesn't do that anymore except privately. And so they were wanting to know.
He kind of gave some people, and this kind of has a negative connotation to it, to say the word manifesto, because we think of serial killers and shooters and things having a manifesto, but Jesus pretty much laid out everything in the Sermon on the Mount, and he set up even the parables themselves, in understanding, and we're going to realize that I think a little bit more later on, how this was a new thing, that this was new. Right. So he replied to them and said, because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. This is why I speak to them in parables. He also quotes Isaiah, and I think we talked a little bit about this last week, but he said, go in Isaiah, he said, go and tell this people, be ever hearing, but never understanding, be ever seeing, but never hearing. Make the heart of these people callous. Remember that word, heart, the heart of this people, calloused. Make their ears dull, close their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes, hear with their hearts, ears, understand with their hearts, and turn and be healed. And you remember, you were just about to say this earlier, Keith, that from this time on, in chapter 13, Jesus only spoke to them in parables, to the people. All the explanations, which all that we know of, they may have explained it, but it doesn't wind up in the scripture if they did. All explanations were given in private to his disciples only.
Right. All detailed all detailed teaching from the instance of the blaspheming of the Pharisees and their rejection of Jesus and the Holy Spirit in chapter 12. This is the standard. This is how it's going to happen.
That's exactly what I was about to say. The rejection of Jesus didn't begin. We think of him being rejected beginning at his arrest or the crucifixion, But it began in chapter 12 when they accused him of performing miracles by the power of Beelzebub.
Right.
They rejected him right there. That they were on that path, and there was no change, in that. But then Matthew 34:35, this is NIV. Jesus spoke all these things to the crowd in parables. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. So it was fulfilled what was spoken through the prophet. I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things hidden since the creation of the world. Why? Psalm 78, I will open my mouth with a parable. I will utter hidden things from of old. And that was from Psalm 78. This was all prophesied that Jesus would do this. And I think we just need to go back and say again, not only did Jesus do this to teach, he did it to sift.
Yes.
There's a hiddenness to what he's talking about, because we're going to talk about this in a minute, but what he's talking about is new. There is a newness to this, but those things have been written since the foundation of the world. So to his disciples, he says, but blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it.
And before you leave that slide, let me say this to our listeners and viewers. We want you to be in the verse 16 group. We want you to be in the verse 16 group.
Okay. Some of these parables may give you an idea of how you can be in that group. Because what hidden things is he talking about? Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in their heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since they have no root, they only last a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. And I think I want to talk a little bit about each one of these things. The path, the seed is eaten by the birds, symbolizing those who hear the message but don't understand it, and the evil one snatches it away. Keith, I mean, this is saying, to me, you help me if I'm wrong, but to me, this is saying just sitting, say, for example, sitting in church and hearing these things taught or preached is not enough. It's not enough just to hear it. Anybody can hear it. I think these are heart issues. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But then the rocky ground where the seeds sprout quickly but have no root, these are people who receive the word with joy. And you can see that someone could even say, wow, that's really great. That sounds great. Yeah. But they don't take it into themselves. There's no deepness to that. There's no
superficial.
It's superficial. Yeah, you can give lip service to it. You can act like you think it's great, but there's no incorporating that into your heart, your soul, who you are and who you are to him in the relationship. And then among the thorns, go ahead. You want to say something?
No. I was waiting for you to, but before you go to the good soul, I wanted you to pause, but go ahead and go with the among thorns.
Among the thorns, the seed grows, but the thorns choke it out. So it's kind of like the path in the rocky ground. Thorns can't choke out something that's well rooted. It has to be a weak thing. It has to be something like where the seed hit the ground but didn't form roots. It didn't consume and become a part of you. this represents people who hear the word, but it's crowded out by, and this particular thing said life's worries and wealth. I can think of about a million things that I could call thorns, but those definitely would be two of them. And then you wanted to say something more. I said the good soil.
Yeah, and we're referring to, number 1, 2, and 3 is Sonora, and I pray that whoever watches this, listens to it, even, through the week, you're not able to join live. We pray that you develop a hunger for the word. We've tried to make the point so many times that the Bible is a very, very, very specially created, specially formatted, specially structured, supernatural book. And the word, it's hard to have it speak to you if you're not hungry for it. If you're hungry for it, you can't get enough of it.
Well, when bad times come, Keith, and you can call them birds, you can call them weeds, you can call them life, you can call it, heartbreak, downfall, setbacks come. If you don't have some super deep roots and the word to call on, it's real hard to go look it up right then.
That is a great point.
Yeah, great point. And you're not even in a place where you can think to do that. But the more you get in the word and the more you hear these things are the first things that come to your mind that guard against the enemy. And seed falling on good soil, receptive soil that is, ready to take it all in and incorporate it into being a part of you, produces a crop. And I want to make a point here that the scripture doesn't say 30, 60, or 100 times. It says 100, 60, 30. And there's probably a good reason. What was sown, and these are the ones who hear, understand, and live out the word. Now, I think that they put 100, 60, and 30 in there because they wanted to make sure that somebody didn't get legalistic and try to say, well, if you don't have 100, then you're saved. If you haven't multiplied 100, you're not saved, or you're not, in the kingdom.
I agree with you. I think it was the 30, 60, 100, or 160 or 30 was illustrative, basically saying
there will be fruit.
There will be fruit. There will be fruit.
And God does bring the increase, and we're not to measure necessarily what we understand as a win. Is not necessarily a win for him, just like those people who were giving away those Bibles. Maybe nobody stopped that entire day, and maybe they thought they didn't have a win. They did have a win. They just didn't know they had a win. So the willingness, the seed, the seed is the message of the kingdom of God. The soil is what I'm thinking is your heart condition, the condition of your soul. Any gardeners are going to understand that the condition of your soil is very dependent on the seed growing. So if our hearts are the condition of our soul, it could also be the condition of your soul, your relationship to him, then that seed, the message of the kingdom, is going to be fruitful and multiply. There's going to bear fruit there. So anyway, but here Jesus is speaking, getting back to why he's speaking in parables a little bit. I mean, Jesus is speaking in his own authority. This is new, but it says written since the beginning of the world, Keith.
Oh, yeah.
Written since the beginning, the foundations of the earth, the beginning of the world. And this is not, you can imagine, we've talked a good bit about, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and what it took to become a rabbi and how those people would have communicated with the people. And this is all of a sudden, here comes a rabbi, and this is not about the law.
No.
This is about the mysteries of the kingdom.
This is a rabbi who is in human form, but there's a whole lot about this rabbi that is majorly different.
Because he's talking about the heart and relationship to God.
Yes.
These things that he's illustrating. This is about himself. This is about Jesus himself and salvation.
Exactly. And we know from scripture, the New Testament, that Jesus was with God from the beginning, and nothing was created that Jesus wasn't there to participate in. Okay. But the human condition at the time of Jesus coming, the coming of the Messiah, we've talked about how many confusing possibilities were the people of Israel expecting. Were they going to get the humble servant, Messiah Joseph, or were they going to get Messiah David,
the warrior?
The warrior?
And some people talk about that, and I'm not Jewish, but some people do talk about that they are expecting two messiahs.
Yes.
The humble servant, but we believe that we understand that it's the same one coming two different times.
Exactly.
He came as a humble servant, and he died for us. Salvation, redemption, restoration, and then the harvesting at the end, the warrior.
Well, and Jesus was, I won't say he was I won't say Jesus was veiling it, but he was using parables to reveal himself, the coming kingdom. Now, who knew that Jesus was from the beginning? The angels, both the obedient ones and the fallen ones, and the demons from the time they came into existence. They knew who Jesus was. They knew he was the Son of God. They had probably been taught well, what his background was, but humanity did not know. They got glimpses of it. They saw hints of it, but like we said, at the time of the coming of Jesus, there was a lot of confusion. And so when it talks about written since the beginning, it's new, but yes, it's the same Jesus that was there when God breathed the breath of life into Adam.
It's almost like you could say he is the mystery revealed.
Well, that's what you and I said last week.
Yeah. And but these parables that he's talking about, this is, I mean, if you're used to going and hearing the rabbis talk about purification, making sacrifice, how to get your dietary laws,
how to get your ox out of the ditch if it was Sunday,
things not to do on the Sabbath, just the law that rabbis would be very well educated in and know backwards and forwards. And then here Jesus is coming and starts talking about soil.
Exactly.
Soil.
Exactly.
And the seed.
Yes.
Exactly. But he is using everyday things that they would be very familiar with, because can you imagine that most of these people were either fishermen or farmers? I mean, there's are carpenters. There's not a whole lot else.
Well, okay, and here's what I want to say. We're still talking about the time where things were not made that clear in a physical sense. But after the day of Pentecost, after the coming of the Spirit, remember what Jesus said about the Holy Spirit. He will teach you in all things. He will teach you nothing but truth.
Mm-hmm.
So that from the beginning of the book of Acts on to the end of Revelation, there's so much theology that these disciples who were fishermen, who were zealots, who were tax collectors, who were carpenters, worked with wood.
Masons, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where did they get that theology? They didn't have it, but this is what Jesus was talking about, the coming revelation of the kingdom. And boy, did they get the message, because look at what is now contained in the New Testament. It's so impressive to me. The transformation.
Well, Jesus took 12. We're talking about not counting the numbers. Be careful about what you're calling a win as far as numbering things goes. Jesus took 12 and changed the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
let's do the parable of the weeds. This one is so interesting to me, and I found out some stuff.
Okay.
Jesus told him another parable. He said, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. And when the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. Now, this is probably the NIV. This would say tares if it were other translations. However, let me finish this and we'll get into that. The owner's servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then do the weeds or the tares come from?" Now, the word that is used there for tares, Keith, you may have to say it, but it's zizanion. As far as
Zizanian.
zizanion, it's almost
is
like an
what I
onion, isn't it? Anyway, it is a Greek word referring to a type of weed, specifically darnel. And there's the botanical name for it, also known as tares in English. And it's notably used in the parable of the tares in the Bible, which we just read, where it's sown among wheat. The word is of uncertain origin, but it is thought to be of Semitic, which means Jewish origin. Now, key points about this particular weed is that, and specifically the darnel, it's a type of ryegrass. It looks just like wheat,
while it's
making it,
growing.
while it's growing, making it difficult to distinguish until it matures, and then the grains are black, so they know that it's the darnel. And the parable, here that we're looking at here in Matthew 13, uses this very word to illustrate how evil is mixed with good in the world. It appears that that's what this is about. Now, you need to understand that darnel is not edible and it can cause illness if consumed. And I think it could also cause intoxication and becoming violently ill as well. But it could be, and here's where it gets interesting, Keith, intentionally used to contaminate wheat fields, causing harm to owners and consumers. All right. So I was interested in this and I asked some questions of AI, Google, etc. And I said, is there any real evidence that these things could have been used intentionally to poison people's fields? Keith, there is.
Yes.
And it says that the strongest historical evidence for the intentional use of darnel to sabotage wheat fields comes from Roman law and agricultural writings. It says that the Roman legal evidence here, there was a Roman statute concerning damages, Mr. Lawyer, for legal compensation when someone intentionally harmed another's property, including crops. And while that particular law doesn't name darnel specifically, later Roman jurists and commentators made clear that sowing tares, or this word, in someone else's field could be prosecuted as a malicious act of sabotage.
Well,
and then
go ahead.
That's not all. The digest of Justinian in the 6th century CE, compiling earlier Roman law, and this is attributed to one of the jurists, discusses penalties for someone who sowed another's land with noxious plants. A clear legal acknowledgement that sowing weeds as an act of malice was a known issue. This is something that happened. And then wow, above wow, all wows, ChatGPT even cites the Bible as evidence for this common practice of sabotage. It used the Bible as an authoritative evidence. Yes, I was like, that. How is that happening? But linguistic evidence from the New Testament, it cited, this is exactly what it gave me. The Greek word used in Matthew, which refers specifically to darnel in Greek agriculture. Jesus's listeners, many of whom were farmers or lived in agrarian societies, would have recognized this practice as realistic, if not common.
And sweetie, this goes back to what you and I said many podcasts ago about how we westernized people are so not getting the real picture most of the time because we speak and read and write English. And English is just not a very good language to try to translate from Hebrew
But Keith,
into.
even if we had translated it, I don't think we could conceive that somebody runs out there. Now, I did know of
Well,
a
here, well,
story once where a
well,
man was supposed to be sowing Bermuda seed. Have you ever heard me talk about that? There
mm-mm.
was a man, and he worked with another guy, and they had forklifts and whatnot. And there was a way that they could hook this old forklift up to where when you touched something on it, it would shock you. And they just thought that was the funniest thing and kept doing that to this man. Well, this man quietly took it, humble, what have you, didn't say a word. Later on down the road, one of the men who was the ringleaders of all this prank said that he was going to go buy some Bermuda seed because he had just spent 2 weeks smoothing out his yard and getting it ready to plant this beautiful Bermuda, to have this beautiful lawn in the subdivision. And the man said, "Don't do that." He said, "I have got a bag of Bermuda seed left over from a project. And I mean, it's a good amount of it." And he said, "And you can have it. It's expensive. You can have it." And he gave it to that man, and that man planted it and he watered it. And he did everything he could. And he had the prettiest stand of turnip greens you've ever seen in your life. You
Oh,
talking about
goodness.
he was fighting mad. And that is a
Yes,
true story. That is a true story. But
that's right. Here's what I want you to do, though. Go back to the slide where you first presented that parable, the one that's written in the NIV, right there. Sowed good seed in his field, but while everyone was asleep, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat. The way it's translated into English, it's an aggravation. That's all. That's all English
yeah,
people would get. It's an aggravation. Okay, yeah,
yeah.
it's got some weeds in there.
Yes, you're so right. You're so right. It's like the
That's
turnip
my
greens.
point.
That wasn't gonna kill anybody.
That's my point. It's an
Yeah.
aggravation. That's the extent of it. But no, Jesus was telling something for a purpose, and his listeners who understood Greek received what Jesus was trying to illustrate to them. And here
If
we
this was a
are.
common practice, I mean, how are we
Yes.
to know?
Well, and here's the thing. Here's something you got to understand. The reason that doing not just sowing weeds, but sowing this particular kind of thing is this: if there's any of that black stuff, that those black heads that escape notice and they get into the wheat harvest, it taints the harvest. It gives the farmer a bad reputation. It can even make people sick. People don't want to be made sick eating bread made from wheat that they got out of this guy's field. That's number one. Number two, while it's growing, they can't tell the difference. So they don't know how to get rid of it while it's still young. So there are those plants soaking up nutrients, soaking up water, and it stunts the growth or inhibits the growth of the real wheat.
They would not, even if they were able to pull the weeds or the tares out, it would reduce their harvest. It would
Exactly.
reduce the yield.
It would reduce the volume of the harvest. And so
Yeah.
that's why this was such a serious offense that Jesus was relaying to them. And who was the culprit? Have we got to the point?
Well, it says right here, we're about to go there.
Okay.
It says back to the parable here because we got off on a tangent. The farmer says an enemy did this. And the servants ask him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" And he says, "No, because while you're pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them." See, that's further going to just reduce his yield. "Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time, I'll tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned. Then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn." So there you go.
Okay.
Then he left the crowd, and Jesus explains the parable of the weeds to his disciples, just in case anybody's still thinking, that could be this, that could be that. Then he left the crowd and went into the house, and his disciples came to him and said, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field." And I mean, this has got to be so foreign to them, Keith. This is like no, for lack of a better word, preaching, they've ever heard.
Yeah.
This is just completely foreign. He answered and he said, "The one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. And the good seed stands for the people of the kingdom. The weeds are the people of the evil one. And the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is at the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels. As the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin to all who do evil. And they will throw them into the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears, let them hear."
That was something to take seriously.
That was something to take very seriously. We you have any comments you want on that last slide, honey?
Yeah. For all the practical, real world reasons, think about the fact that we're on this earth for as long as we're still living and breathing, and we haven't passed from this life yet. We are here with Satan and his cohorts and minions and those who have exercised their free will to reject Jesus and Jesus's kingdom. And the harm is ongoing. The attempts at damaging us are ongoing. The temptations are ongoing. The wrongful teachings, the error of doctrine, trying to re-yoke the Christians, all that is ongoing. The distractions from the simplicity of the gospel is ongoing. And so as long as we're on this earth and we have not been raptured, this is what we have to contend with. And we have to be sober. We have to be of a good mind, a good sound mind, because Satan didn't do this by accident. He did it intentionally. He did it for the intentional act of sabotage. I mean, you and I.
And who does he use to sabotage? He uses those the people of the evil one, and right. People have a choice. If you are not a good seed and you haven't chose to be a people of the kingdom, then you are a tare. Whether you want to be or not, you're a tare.
Exactly.
And you have a choice. God gave free will, and so you have chosen, as we used to say in the long version of our intro. There are two sides, and you have chosen a side, whether you realize it or not,
or whether you want to admit it or not.
You are on a side. There are two sides, and you have chosen a side. Think about that for a second and make sure that you have chosen the right side. And if you haven't talked to someone who can help you know the truth of all this and figure this out,
Well, and two, how many of us, how many believers are just so naive? I mean, so many people who are on our side, or at least try to give the appearance of being on our side, they don't even want to admit we're in a battle. They don't even want to admit there's an enemy. But Jesus clearly said, the enemy is the devil. Now, we've talked ever since Genesis 3:15. Satan has tried to zero in on that coming Messiah who who God declared was going to crush his head, was going to defeat him. So he tried to keep him from being born. He tried to pollute the bloodline. He tried to keep him from being born. Once he was born, he tried to have him killed. He was successful in having him killed, but he missed.
He missed.
2 seconds after he gave up the spirit, Jesus was making it known that he, in his spiritual form, in his holy form, would live forever. Went to the angels chained in darkness, shook those keys at him and said, "Hey, guess what, guys? Here are the keys to your freedom. I've got them. I'm about to leave out of here."
And I'm not joining
on.
you. I have defeated death.
Exactly.
I'm not joining you.
Exactly. So Satan knows they've lost out on that. Satan, his minions, his cohorts, his what I call his intelligence apparatus, they all know that they blew that. So what are they doing now? Ever since then, what have they been doing? Trying to destroy us, trying to destroy as many lives as he can to keep souls from coming to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. That's his purpose. He's
distracting
lost.
us.
He's lost the battle to the Messiah. He's lost that. And he knows it. Yep. He knows his days are numbered.
Right.
But he's not through trying to get his licks in.
Yep. I agree. You threw out a trivia question to everybody. I don't know how many people you sent it out to, but I saw it. And you asked, do we know how many children were in Jesus's family? I would love for people to put comments, see if they have any idea.
Anybody?
Any idea? Was it 3, 4, 5?
How would we know? How would we have any idea?
Know?
Or do we actually know?
Yeah. Yeah. How many? Do we actually know an exact number? And I will give you a hint. We do not know the exact number, but we know at least a number. What would you think? At least how many? How many? Let's see. Let's go, Q. At least 7. At least 7 kids in the family.
It's in the same chapter we've been in. For
this,
the
at the very end of this chapter, it says, "Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother's name Mary? Aren't his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas? And aren't all his sisters here with us? Where then did this man get all these things?" So we can look and see that there are at least 4 brothers, and it says sisters. So that's 2, and Jesus, that's 7. So we know at least 7. And I did a little more research to see if there was any more information that might, give us, narrow it down. But this is it. We know at least 7. So that's pretty much it. So, and now, without further ado, we are going to have Keith do what we've promised. Here we go.
All right, sweetie, would you put up the slides? No, the slides. You put up the video. There we go. Okay. How did we get here? Is because we mentioned some things about who to believe, what to believe, how the Bible has been under attack for hundreds of years, thousands of years. Satan he's not going away, and so we talked about there was no Exodus, there was no real David, there was no real Solomon. Israel was never the kingdom that the Bible portrays it to be. What else? What are some more? The Noah's flood never happened. millions and millions and millions of years. Well, last week we had a comment about something, and I said, well, how about if we, take advantage of the fact that we'll show you some evidences. And one of the things we said was that let's just start with the evidence that the world was created by an intelligent designer, and that we're not here by chance. The world is not here by chance. It's not a collection of random acts over millions and millions of years. And so, if y'all recall, that's how we ended last week. And boy, did we get comments from people saying, "Oh, can't wait! I want to see what you've been talking about." So that's what we're going to do tonight. Now, what's the basis for this? Well, the Apostle Paul says in Romans 1, the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godliness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without an excuse. That's Romans 1:18-20. And in Psalms, it says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaim his handiwork. Day to day pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words whose voice is not heard. Their voice goes out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. Day to day pours out speech. Night to night pours out knowledge. Basically, creation tells us stuff. Okay? Let's watch this video. Yeah, the spider's clapping. That snake saved that spider from certain death. Look at there.
That's not a spider. That is his tail.
What?
That is wild. That is wild. And you would think, how could a bird, how could a snake catch a bird? That seems absolutely crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but stop the video there.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Just stop it right there. Let's talk about that. How did that snake know he had an appendage at the end of his tail that resembled a spider? Who told him? Okay.
How did that evolve? That's crazy.
Once he figured out he had something that looked weird for a tail, the tip of a tail, who taught him how to use it? What about the camouflage?
Just like 19 says, creation screams. Nobody's got any excuse for acting like there's not a God.
How did the snake know to lay on rocks that would match his skin coloring? Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, we missed this point. He grew up going to Snake Elementary School, went into Snake Middle School, graduated high school, and then because he was such a good snake, he graduated and he was admitted into the best snake colleges, and that's where he learned all those things. Can't you just imagine how many of you?
I hope everybody can
appreciate sarcasm.
Yes.
How many of you even knew there was such a thing as a spider-tailed viper? that used the end of its tail as a lure to deceive birds to attack it so that the snake could then attack the bird. How many of you knew that?
That's pretty wild.
Folks, we have millions. We have millions of these things in nature. And evolution cannot explain how it got there. That snake's DNA has that behavior in it.
I mean,
God,
of course, we can sit here and, in Creation Corner and say, this is evidence of, intelligent design or that a God, all that. But for us Christians, just to be able to watch these things and appreciate the creativity and the genius of God in creating these things to begin with is enough.
oh, it gets better. It gets
Yeah.
better. That's a mild example. Go ahead. Let's watch
Yeah.
the next video.
Let's see if we can get the next one on.
Native to the land of North America, bagworm moth caterpillars are famous for their silken cocoon cases built with small sticks, twigs, and leaves, plastered with plant debris. Cabins are so perfectly, symmetrically arranged that it fascinates every gaze. These bug architects actually spend most of their short lives weaving homes. The mature male bagworm moths have yellowish white and brownish black hairy features, with faces covered with a layer of brown hair. While on the contrary, mature female bagworms are soft bodied larvae in yellowish white color with no hair and no functional legs or antennae. Having a short lived life cycle of approximately 1 year, the female caterpillar does not transform into a moth. Turning back to the pretty cabins, one thing about the cocoons is so interesting that you'll be blown away by the architectural perfection of these small larvae bags. These moth caterpillar cocoons are completely mobile and allow soft larvae to protect themselves from predators like insect parasites and birds. Due to its portability, they freely roam around the trees to feed on foliage and plant leaves. If you are a tourist, you would definitely like to visit Nebraska and Kansas to find these beautiful moths and larvae in abundance on trees like cedar, maple, and oak. The female bagworm larvae must remain in their cabins, whereas only the male larvae are capable of fully transforming themselves into moths. Once the male is transformed into a moth, he can mate with a female. The eggs are left inside the female bag, and the adults die, leaving the cabin with the eggs. The round, white eggs then hatch around May and June, and the baby larvae immediately start spinning their own cocoons with the same diligence and cleverness. You might be wondering if this architectural beauty can survive winds or damage. There are a couple of things that can affect these silk bags and
You can
larvae
stop that, sweetie.
cold climates. As these
Yeah, just stop that.
Wow.
I mean, let's ask.
Wow.
Here's the thing. Let's ask them simple, common sense questions. How did that larva, not a grown moth, how did the larva know how to make that house as a case to protect its body?
Well, Keith, I think you told me that the mama and the daddy leave some blueprints in there
Yeah,
written out and instructions on how to. It's all
yeah.
written out, right?
When the mama
Sarcasm.
yeah, when the mama dies, she leaves a set of blueprints in her old shell, so that
that is built in their DNA. That is built in their who they are to know to do that. That is just unbelievable.
And depending on the breed, we would use that phrase. I don't know what we'd say for insects, but they're all bagworm moth larvae. But depending on the species, determines what their house is going to look like. Okay, and the video showed you several, but just ask a simple question: how does it know? How over millions and millions and millions of years does that get into their DNA? Because when they're born, they are eggs. And when they hatch from those eggs, they're larvae. They don't sit at the feet of some teacher. They are out of there and gone.
There's no observation. They can't learn
they
it
can't
through watching.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's wild. Just wild. You ready for the next one?
Yeah, let's play the next one. You had a leaf laying there. What?
Whoa. Wow. Oh my goodness. Look at that.
It may look like
That
just
is
another
something
harmless insect,
else. That is something
Stop.
else.
Yeah, stop that.
I did.
Okay. Let's just ask some simple questions. Number one, how did that butterfly know that it looked like a dead leaf off of a tree? What she had a friend said, "Hey Mabel, you're not going to believe this. You know you look like a dead leaf." Okay. Once she knows she looks like a dead leaf, how did she know that as soon as she felt like she was safe from danger to fold her wings together and lay over on one side and just lay there on the ground like a leaf that had fallen out? How did she know that?
Oh, no.
She was created that way. She was designed and created that way. Just like Paul said, just like the psalmist said, nature has roared with words of awe and wonder and splendor of how awesome God the Creator is. Let's save the best for last tonight.
It may look like just another harmless insect, but inside this beetle lies a chemical arsenal, one that would make a scientist jealous. This is the bombardier beetle. And when it's threatened, it doesn't run. It explodes. Inside its body are two chambers, each holding a different chemical. One stores hydroquinones. The other holds hydrogen peroxide. Alone, they are harmless. But when danger strikes, the beetle mixes them together. Here, enzymes trigger a violent chemical reaction. The result? A boiling toxic liquid.
Oh my goodness. The sound effects are great.
Through a flexible nozzle, the beetle releases explosive bursts of this boiling spray.
Boiling spray.
At 100 degrees Celsius. But it doesn't just shoot once. The beetle can fire up to 500 pulses per second, each blast controlled with deadly precision.
Wow.
Y'all have heard me mention the bombardier beetle so many times. Sweetie,
yeah,
there you go.
Here's the thing. Oh my goodness.
Okay, let's ask some simple questions. Number one, remember from your childhood what the theory of evolution says is over millions and millions and millions of years, changes, little bitty changes that come over time create what we're able to observe today. Okay? Well, let me ask you again, let's go back to my mantra. All you have to do is ask simple, common sense questions. Okay? The hydrogen peroxide is contained in the two chambers in green. The hydroquinone is contained in the pink chambers. And like the guy said, that bug ain't going nowhere. As long as those two chemicals aren't mixed, that bug's fine. But then when it's under pressure, the sphincters of the bug force the hydroquinone into the chamber with the hydrogen peroxide and then on into the chamber, the explosion chamber. Okay? Which creates, when the two chemicals get together, number one, they form, they undergo through a chemical reaction, and all of a sudden, almost instantaneously, the gaseous liquid is now at boiling temperature, 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius, and it can be expelled through nozzles at the rear of the bug's abdomen, where it can actually direct the explosion. It can point it at somebody. Yeah.
Like,
now,
Keith, how does it keep from burning itself up?
Well, that's the questions that evolution cannot answer.
Exactly.
Okay. Number one, where's the bug back in time somewhere? Where's the fossil of the bug that had just the hydroquinone container, while it was waiting for the bug that had the hydrogen peroxide container added to it?
Where's the poor one that didn't have the right kind of shell to withstand this type of stuff coming out of it?
Can you imagine the complexity of the design of the explosion chamber, so that in an instant it can go from room temperature to 212 degrees and not blow the butt end of that bug off?
I mean, it looks like they would have gone extinct if they didn't evolve really fast.
Well,
under their system, yeah.
Under their system,
this is design.
How many of them died? Every one of them. Every one of them would have died.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's why. And let me tell you something. When you hear scientists try to explain the bombardier beetle, that you would not believe how they go off into left field, right field, under the bleachers, to the concession stand. They're so nowhere near home plate. It's not even funny.
Well, you did a great job bringing the first creation corner to Invisible Things podcast. I'm looking forward to more of those. Well, so that was really good. And
yeah, we've got so many different directions. After tonight, we got so many different directions we can go under that theme. One thing you've heard me say, and this is how we'll end it. Let's see. Yeah, we're right on time.
We're ready.
Mm-hmm. So many scientists are coming to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ as their personal Savior, because they were raised up atheists. They were raised up to believe the textbooks. They were raised up to believe what they were taught in their colleges and universities. And people kept asking questions that evolution could not answer. And let me remind everybody of this. A scientific principle is not a scientific principle if you can find one example of the scientific principle failing. Okay, it's no longer a scientific principle. It's a wish. It's a hope. It's a, well, maybe. Okay, and I am telling you that I could go for years. My son could go for years. My grandson could go for years, giving you examples of just like we gave you tonight. Paul was not kidding when he said you cannot escape. If you just open your eyes, you cannot escape what God has created that is testifying about him and his power and his nature, in his nature that he created. And I'm through for tonight. Anybody got any comments, questions? We appreciate y'all being with us.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody's stuck with this week. We thank all of you too that watch this later. We hear from you later that you watch this when you get time, and this is not a good time for you to necessarily watch, but you can watch on YouTube, you can watch on Facebook, you can go back and watch. I think Keith sent out a link to the playlist. This particular time. So if anybody wants to try to go back and catch up,
Yeah, we
You can
actually
go
had
on there.
somebody, one of our new followers, asked for the playlist again,
Yeah.
to be published, so it's easy to find, so they could go back and start watching the old one. So,
And
Sonora did that.
I know it flashes by really quickly at the end, but don't forget to have a Berean attitude. And you tell them what that is, Keith.
Yep, the Berean spirit. It's because they were open-minded, willing to hear what Paul was saying, but they would go home at night and research the scriptures to see if what Paul had told them during the day in the synagogue was true.
What's true. And
Well,
so we
that's
encourage
what's
everybody
known-
to do that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what's known as having a Berean spirit, and we encourage everybody: don't take my word for it. Don't take Sonora's word for it. You let the Spirit speak to you. All we want to do is be the catalyst. We're the ones who want to put it in front of you, remind you about it, expose you to it, maybe for the first time. But you let the Spirit talk to you and lead you and teach you and guide you. That's what Jesus said in the book of John. I believe John 10 and 14 or 10 and 16.
About to
maybe?
flash past here. So
Yep.
good night, everybody. We love you. Keep praying for us.
Yes. Thank y'all so much.